by the time I was your guys' age, I looked like this. Hey, everybody. Chuck Cook, Aaron Hall, Jesse Bless. We expect some others to join us. Unless Greg is winning another triathlon, which apparently he won over the weekend in his age group, which is awesome, I think. Totally cool. Hey, so first thing we want to talk about today, of course, I think we want to jump right into our EB Wastage lawsuit here. I have to find my my handy dandy link. Here we go. Mandamus and Wastage lawsuit. And we use mandamus. We're talking about APA mandamus, not straight up Mandamus Act mandamus. But same thing. So we have gotten, I believe, 140 plaintiffs? Is that right, guys? I think that was right. I think that's what Greg said.
Yep.
Yeah, and we have a good chunk of Chakrabarty folks that rejoined, and it looks to me about 60 to 70% of our Chakrabarty folks got their green cards during this last 9 months, which is great. Yeah. But still, it's unfathomable that it's now 2 years these folks are waiting and they don't have their green card yet. So grateful to have them in the lawsuit along with the others that have joined us. You can still sign up for the lawsuit. You can still jump into the lawsuit. Here is the link to do that. So you can still jump into the lawsuit. The price has gone up a little bit this week. If Friday is going to be the last day, because we're going to be filing on Tuesday is our plan to do that. We're drafted. First couple of drafts of the complaint are done. Jesse's got his most recent peck at it, and Aaron's going to be pecking at it later today. Yeah. Waleed's pecked at it for us and got it set up. So we're excited. We have the class action component in it because, while we would love CIS to simply moot all our cases out, that'd be great. We want them to do that, get them approved by the end of the year because they've promised to do it twice at least. They promised to do it. I just don't trust them to do it. I certainly don't trust them to use all their visas. So we're kind of excited about this going forward, and we're gonna file that. We're gonna be good to go. Yeah. You guys have anything else on the EB wastage stuff?
I think everyone is always interested. Like, oh, what happened last year? What happened this year? I think a part of what's different is the promises made. They've made certain promises this year that they didn't make in years past. I think that the litigation this year is also different because as we've done more and more research and talked with experts in the field, there is an argument that we're going to be making that, in fact, there are no reason to waste any visas and that they're misreading the statute. And if they treated people like they do in the non-immigrant context, they could actually preserve visas and never lose them. And that's important. That's an argument that our team is deciding to make, and it's been made and been raised by others. And for all we know, the agency will be receptive to it. But until they are, we need to do what's best for the class.
Right. This is something interesting, Jesse, is you have the Biden administration, which is supposedly pro-immigrant, the Obama administration pro-immigrant, and they refuse to take positions that are favorable to immigrants in their interpretation of statutes. That's what stuns me about all this. This is a policy choice.
Yeah.
A policy choice. And, it should be the nativists arguing that they took the wrong position rather than us arguing to take the right position. Maybe they're just afraid of the natives. I don't know.
I got to be honest with you. And again, I'd love Aaron's, opinion on this, but my personal opinion is that Biden is pro-labor, and being pro-labor and pro-immigration are not necessarily that people see that as two different things. And that's his, listen, that's his platform. That's his baby. He can go with it. That's fine. I just think that people need to stop deluding themselves that he is pro-immigrant first. He's pro-labor first, and the policies. And if you look at the regulatory agenda that came out this week about new wage rule, new fee rule, that is all about this notion that, foreign nationals are takers and not makers. And, our team is up and we realize it, but I don't think the public, necessarily does.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
Aaron, you probably feel the same way, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, the old school Democrats are not necessarily pro-immigration. And so that I think the Democratic Party has been in some ways pulled that way in the last 10, 15, 20 years to be more pro-immigrant, but not universally. And Biden is certainly an old school Democrat.
See, I know you guys are too young to remember this, but it was the Democrats that were opposed to Reagan's amnesty in 1986. It was not the Republicans that were opposed to it. And interestingly enough, today, our friend Alex Naraste at Cato, on this exact point, Jesse, published a little chart that said immigrants reduce unionization in the United States.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You know, I love Cato because they get the great charts. Like, they're all data guys, these economist folks. Fascinating how the increased numbers of immigrants have reduced the percentage of people in unions. I just found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Workforce. Interesting stuff.
I think too, I mean, one of the things we need to recognize is we're now sitting on, midterm elections, and that, if anyone had any thoughts that this administration was going to do something for immigration legislation, that clock ticked.
It's gone.
Midnight.
That is past midnight.
And the next 2 years are going to be about fighting so that we don't have a return to the immigration dark ages where, God only knows what could happen on the next redo.
Well, we'll see if there's 10 Democrats in the Senate to stop a filibuster of some crazy GOP House immigration bill that, gets rid of legal immigration. So anyway, here's the lawsuit. We'd love to have you join it. We got this week still to go, and we'll be filing next week. And we'll be filing this out in Washington. I know there's no other group filing on this, so we're kind of excited about this. We think we've got a good piece of litigation to go, and we've got a good place to litigate in. And we've got great plaintiffs with great facts. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're excited about that. Next, Aaron, I have to give you a chance to talk about our EAD litigation. We call it the Kang case. Where are we with Kang?
Yeah, we don't really have new news other than there's a briefing deadline today. And so today. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on this morning. And
what is that brief about? I mean, we actually had it done last week, kind of. So, but the government wanted more time because they were going on vacation or something. And in this case,
they needed a little bit
every
more time.
plaintiff has their card, so all of our plaintiffs got relief.
And that's the government's point. They say that all of your plaintiffs have what they want. So why are we litigating this? It's moot, is what they say. And there are a number of exceptions to mootness, and so we're arguing about those. That's what this briefing is about. And also, this was brought as a class, and so we're arguing that it's not appropriate to dismiss the case as moot. And hopefully, the court will see. If you dismiss this case as moot, then there can be another case filed next week. The plaintiffs are unlimited as long as they're not timely producing employment authorization documents.
So I met with a new client today, wondering what the status of their EAD was that they filed 17 months ago. 17 months ago, no EAD. So it's not like there's not a never-ending supply.
I guess they're in the 20% who weren't processed within the crazy.
The new chart, yes, don't you love the new chart? 80.
So
what
confusing.
Is that number? 80%. It's a meaningless number.
It's absolutely.
But then when you click on that, you can put in your own date of your receipt notice to see when you can file an inquiry, and then they calculate it way beyond that date. It's strange.
Oh no, it's absolutely crazy. The UVs, as you know, and we do a lot of UVs, as you've done a lot of UVs as victims of crime, and that is, for the last number of years, it's been 5 years processing time. Someone came to see me today, and she'd filed in April of 2016. I said, well, they stopped working on them for a while, and they're supposed to be in like the end of 2017, and she's like way past the processing time. It's a meaningless number. The whole 80% thing is.
I feel, Jesse, I know this isn't the same for you, but probably Chuck, for some of your office, it will be. I feel like probably 4 to 5 times a week, I'm asked to draft a letter for an employer, explaining the auto extension and explaining what's going on with USCIS delays. It's just absolutely endemic. And then people are losing their jobs. They really are. Even with the bigger auto extensions, they're losing their jobs.
What's even more outrageous is they publish a new reg, and they don't make it for every EAD. They cherry picked EADs. Greg, good to have you here with us today. So we've already talked about the Kang case, talked about the Wastage case, and let people know they still sign up. I do want to put this up for just a second because Thursday is the last day of the 90 days in which you can file for an H-1B if you were selected, if you were one of the 127,000 people selected for the H-1B lottery this year. And oddly enough, there's been no announcement yet that they've got enough applications in. How odd. And Jesse, you brought up the regulatory agenda thing just a few minutes ago. What was not in the new regulatory agenda was what was in last year while the litigation was going on, which was to do something about how applications are handled and who can file. That's no longer in this. So we're waiting to see. We told everybody we're going to wait and see what happens during this first quarter of filings, these first 3 months of filings. And, if they come out in, I'm guessing a second lottery will be like the third week of July. And they'll say, hey, we want 3,000 more or we want 40,000 more. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see what number is going to look like. Anyway, I figured I'd just bring that up quick. We do want to just let everybody know DB 2020, DB 2021 oral argument Friday, September 16th, Washington, D.C. I hope it's a beautiful fall day in Washington instead of a belated August day in September in Washington in September. So we'll see. And I don't know about you guys, but I will have just gotten back from AILA's spring meeting, which they are a fall meeting, which they're fortunately having in Maui as well. On the DV 2022, folks, Aaron, you have an update, I think, on DV 2022. Good news.
Yeah, the government just let us know that they just filed something with a notice of some updates about some of our plaintiffs. And we're at the point where the majority of people are either have their visas issued or are set for an appointment. I know that there are others who are not there yet, and some have been emailing me in the last couple of days. I am going to be getting back to you on those emails. I'm a little bit behind in the last day, but it's good news in that the majority are getting them out, and I think we're on a good trajectory there.
I will say, so just so you know, so the government filed that notice of how great they're doing in all the DV litigation, and our judge in Kentucky has actually called a hearing for today at 2. I don't know. I mean, I guess my the optimistic bones that are still left in my body hope that he's going to ask why they're filing things when there's a motion to dismiss pending based on, and this is kind of like discovery. The worst case scenario is he's going to say, well, this looks all good. What's the case? And we're under a protective order there, but I just want to let the public know that we actually had the opportunity, I did, to depose Morgan Miles in Washington, D.C. And I have the transcript of that testimony, and I can't release it right now because I'm under protective order. But we're certainly going to that's a big part of our case. And we just hope that we can make our case to the court because they have done really well and surged since the filing of all these lawsuits. But it's funny because we keep talking about this, what they're saying and what they're doing at some consulates, if not most, are different. There are consulates like Addis and Accra and others that are simply turning away from these poor people. And we're talking about thousands. We're not talking about 100. So I just want to make that point.
Hey, I want to share the screen here with you guys of this is actually the notice the government filed in our case. This is in the Ojibor case. We have 71 selectees in our litigation here. 25 have gotten their DVs or had them adjudicated. 29 have been scheduled for interviews. 3 are not current, which actually changes August 1, right? And so that actually leaves only 14 plaintiffs that are current but have not yet been scheduled. Yeah. And again, the goal for this litigation has always been to make sure that our plaintiffs get their visas. That's our goal.
The only other thing I'll say on the latest filing is that it is specific to our plaintiffs, and they don't give the bigger picture. So they don't say, "Hey, we're doing great at issuing," or "We're on track to hit X number of the 55,000." They just say, "Hey, look, we've gotten a few more of these plaintiffs done," which is great, but I don't think it leads any credence or support to a motion to dismiss.
Yeah.
No, and of course we haven't heard from Judge Mehta at all. Just
yeah.
So Jesse, you have a hearing today, is that right?
Yeah, and about at 2 p.m. on the record. It's not public, but I don't know what the judge is going to say. I mean, the judges in this court, and this is maybe good for the public to understand, every court runs its own little ship its own way. And in Kentucky, they're meticulous about schedule, following the rules, following the order. And we have a detail, so our summary judgment motion is due July 15th. Mm-hmm. And discovery had to close. We were granted discovery, which I thought was a huge win. And that closed June 15th, where we could make requests. So we are moving forward methodically, and they just dumped this thing on Friday night, hey, look at how great we're doing. And I looked at the rules. I don't understand how they can just start dumping evidence on a court.
Well, I think they're used to practicing in DC,
right? Where
they can just dump evidence in the court. They may not have spoken to local counsel. Do you have oil in that case, or do you have local U.S. attorney?
Yeah, so the familiar team from DC are on it with I think the head of the civil division in the Eastern District of Kentucky. Very nice people. I mean, honestly, very good, gracious people. I don't know how much control they have. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I could be 100% wrong, and I'm about to get my clock cleaned. But it was odd to me to receive it, because you would think they would have sent it to us first, maybe, counsel. I don't know.
Or ask permission to file it.
Yeah.
Judge, we would like permission to file the attached document. And instead of, hey, clearly it's done, so that the judge will hold off doing anything. I mean, their job is to delay to not get an effective decision. This is all part of delay, right?
Well, and again, I don't want to take too much time, but as we're litigators and we're thinking about this, and something like this happens, your reaction is, well, wait a minute, I haven't been here before. Do I file all the evidence that I have showing that maybe what they're doing and what they're saying are two different things? Or is that just going to annoy the court more? And, when you have a duty to these clients, you have this push-pull of, And so, I've decided to wait because I think it's in the best interest.
Well, you can put it in your summary judgment motion, right? You're going to say,
right.
Look, here they said this, which is great, but look at these 4 consulates where they've done nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, what they don't tell you is the level, the amount of refusals are way up because of the pilot program, the way they were accepting documents. And so there are a lot of people who are in administrative processing, which is creating, of course, work that consulates don't necessarily have the time to do. So scheduling is not, I know that's a big part of our lawsuits, but the story this year is also the number of refusals. I think they're way up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the document that they attached in ours, they did give bigger overall numbers about what they've done as part of this process, where they've talked about that the KCC completed processing 48,000 DV cases for 101 prospective applicants. So 48,000 winners. So I think what they're saying here is, hey, we're done. We've given the consulates all that they can handle here as part of it. Although, if they're depending on the refusals at this point, and we don't know is what percentage of refusals there are out there. Are they going to do more? What about people that aren't current? And the problem is they throw these terms out, and the courts do not know what they mean. Means, oh my God, you only can give out 55,000. You got 101,000. Oh, what's the problem?
Yep.
But that's not. Again, you go back to that great quote from The Princess Bride. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Yeah, they moved the choke point, right? So last year it's at KCC, and now it's after KCC. But there's still
But where?
Yeah.
But where?
Yeah.
You know, we got front our is I'm in Russia. Where am I going? They won't transfer my case anywhere. So
and another thing they've done this year, which is different. Everyone, you know, everything is always, you know, they change their method, right? Everything was all right. This is our national prioritization scheme, and now it's every consulate can determine what it wants to do,
Right.
and so you have countries or consulates that are right next to each other. One wants to lean into DV, and you have some that say, like, you know, Ghana, D's great examples where they say, no, we're not going to do it this year. And you have thousands who are like either trying to transfer, or, you know, it's just.
And they've all paid the same amount of money, right? They've all leaned into this with.
Well, I think their hopes and dreams rest on. I mean, that's the whole part of this program. And I think that this kind of disparate treatment, it just is it's a paradigm of like arbitrary, like, you know, they're not following.
It's a little strange how the government, you know, they made in terms of like what the previous cases said about, you know, not being able to prioritize it. Somehow they think that just shifting the same problem to the consulates, that somehow that's not the same violation of the of what the judge says in previous orders. I don't, you know, I'm curious how they're going to explain that.
Yeah. Well, and not to change the subject, but, you know, we've seen this not just in DV, but with like humanitarian parole. Ukrainian, Afghan, right? Yeah. I mean, this is
there's Afghans applying. I did not.
But
there was some good news on the Afghans this week on that. I mean, I don't know when you want me to get into like discussing like developments in immigration world, but there was a very significant policy change that.
Give us the policy change as you see it, Greg.
All right, so this is on the USCIS or DHS website. They actually have this FAQ for Afghan humanitarian parole, and they added some very significant language on being able to claim that you're being targeted as a member of a group instead of just individually, which really broadens it out. It kind of reminds me of the Lautenberg program for Russian Jews and evangelicals, as well as Iranian Christians. Anyway, that should potentially broaden significantly, because you don't have to necessarily show that you're being targeted for anything about you. You just have to show that you're in this certain classification. And there is a belief that that's going to significantly increase approval rates, which have been 10%.
Abysmal.
That's the approval rate for Afghan humanitarian parole.
Well, the question, are they going to make them pay another $495?
Well, if you've already been denied, that was one of the curious things about the program, because we've had some denials. And I had been told since March by people in the field that there was going to be something significant changing about the program. So I had been holding off on doing filing a motions to reconsider, because I wanted to wait until that had happened. And I think this is what we were waiting for, even though it's not labeled that. But you get a year to file a motion to reopen on these cases. I think that's what they say in the denial letter. So which won't require an additional fee. So hopefully that we'll start to see some change there. They didn't trumpet that out from DHS, but that is that's something that a lot of us who are filing these cases notice. So hopefully some good news.
I think they were embarrassed into doing that, considering they were just giving Ukrainians just, come on in. You're white.
Yeah, I mean the Ukrainian program actually, I think, has been an interesting experiment on something that's been talked about for years. And our friend David Beer at Cato was the one who was trumpeting this concept years ago, and I think people kind of chuckled at it and didn't really think. But the idea that a U.S. citizen can just individually sponsor somebody to come to the U.S. as a refugee, and that is largely what the Ukrainian program is. It's anybody in the U.S. can be a sponsor on I-134 and bring a Ukrainian to the U.S. On there, and that seems to be pretty popular. I don't think they're going to go that direction with the Afghan program yet, but it's one I think the Republicans certainly haven't attacked it like I thought they were going to.
If
Greg, what
Afghanistan
percentage of-
were on a different continent, maybe they would.
I was going to ask Greg, what percentage of your Afghan HP cases have you gotten a decision on? Do you still have a lot that are just pending?
Yeah, well, we had like five family groups that we filed for, so we're not filing nearly as many as others, and these were, it's all being done pro bono, so there were limits. But there's like 30 people altogether. We've had 2 denials, 3 that are still sitting there.
We've had 1 approval and a couple denials as well. I mean, most people got denied. I mean,
we don't have any approvals. We have a few denials, and most are still pending.
Yeah, so we're going to refile now the 2 denials under the new standard, and we'll see whether USCIS is serious about this change.
And just so people know, this is something that the 4 of us and the rest of IMMpact have kicked around. It's something we're keeping an eye on closely about potential litigation on these.
Yeah, there is one case that we're watching that's been filed by the ACLU of Massachusetts, and it's an important case in this space. We have some additional theories that Aaron and I have kicked around on there, but yeah, I think it's something that we might litigate soon.
Cool. All right. There's no legislative updates because they're not in session.
Well, there was something.
One. All right. What do you got?
That people. So the Appropriations Committee is working on a bill for Homeland Security right now, and they added an amendment this past week, or it was June 15th or 16th, close to this last week, that Congresswoman Meng from New York, she had previously introduced something that made a lot of people worried, rightly so, in the Indian community. But basically, she had a bill that would call back unused green cards to the original categories that they were in on there, which sounds fine if that family numbers don't roll over to employment, that they stay in that category, and employment numbers don't roll over to families, stay in that category. The problem was the way that she had written it was like retroactive, and it would impact a lot of the people that were going to benefit this year on the employment side. So a lot of people were really worried about that, and obviously that would potentially have an impact on our suit. But she got she got an amendment or added to the DHS appropriations bill on the 15th that is a lot broader than that, and I think will overall make people in that category happy. Basically, it's a broad recapture for everything since 1992, which is about 500,000, we think, plus last year's 80,000, so it might be closer to 600,000 green cards that would become available, which would of course clear out most of the backlogs, if not all of them with that. And she kept the other language in there as well. So like going forward, they won't cross categories anymore. And for DV, basically everybody who didn't get a DV because of one of the bans, which is a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people
in our suits, that those numbers would all be restored. And that people who missed out on DV, not just for DV 2020 and 2021, 22, but also people that were subject to the Muslim ban before that they would potentially be able to go and get it. And it's so it's good language overall. I think people can be happy with it, and she figured out a way to make everybody happy instead of just one group or another.
Now, the important part about this is in the DHS appropriations bill, which is must-pass legislation. But a lot will depend on whether there's a equal or quasi-similar provision in the Senate version of the bill.
Yeah, so the thing about recapture is it's one way that you can sometimes get Republicans on board. They seem to be less sensitive on recapture because the idea is that these were green cards that were contemplated already, so it's not technically an increase in green card numbers. So in the past, Republicans have signed on as co-sponsor on some of the recapture bills that have been out there. I don't know, there's not, the bill doesn't do anything other than what I just said. So, I mean, that language, so maybe, although anything immigration related that makes people happy has an uphill battle.
Pretty toxic in the Senate. Yeah.
So, keep an eye on it, but it's and it's going on a different track. So it's a little less you're right on their, Homeland Appropriations bill is going to have a million other things on it that people are going to be paying a lot more attention to. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, if you just give the Border Patrol $2 billion more, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
It's usually what those things usually make it.
Yeah, they'll make it. We got a hello from DG. Good to see you. Will immigration do anything about the backlog? Greg just talked about that. Osama, regarding to Go case, I think we only asked for Chris number. Again, we talked about this earlier in previous weeks. We did ask for the increase for all Go plaintiffs. We will be making that point in oral argument, and your guess is as good as ours. There you go. That's good. Daughter has a student visa interview. All right. Derivative 2021 has mentioned in DS. We'll expect an F1 visa. That's a good question. If do the DV 2023 winner, which would be this next fiscal year, will they? And she was a previous 2021 who didn't get the visa. Can she still get an F1? The answer is yes. She can still get an F1. If she actually applied, she should indicate she did apply for an immigrant visa as a derivative. And when she needs to have, Greg, I don't know how you tell people this, she needs to have a 30-second elevator speech. What's your intent on getting the student visa? I intend to go get the best education I possibly can in X area at X university and come back and make my country great again. Or something like that. You gotta have it. So good luck. And Go, can you please send plaintiffs your request to reserve all visas to plaintiffs? We have already sent this out to plaintiffs. It's in our briefs. Is it possible to avoid consequences of false claims when adjustment of status? This is one of those laws that Congress passed, and it just sounds really good, right? If you make a false claim to be a citizen, you are an evil, terrible, awful human being, and you're unforgivable. That sounds good, I think, to some people, but in practice, it's awful.
Yeah, pretty unforgiving.
I think you can go ask Mr. Patel at the Supreme Court how he feels about that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't work out.
Just lost that.
Yeah,
just lost that issue. Terrible. Are you for winning the appeal? I think we're going to win the appeal at the 11th at the DC Circuit.
I would say, I think I've said this before, and maybe we all agree. I think the Department of State is willing to take this all the way up because they see this. They don't see this as a DV case. They see this as the judicial branch telling the executive branch what it has to do and violating the legislative branch's authority of what it can and cannot do. So it's a separation of powers. And I can tell you, again, I know people are, I'm like an outlier on this. I actually love this argument at the Supreme Court because I think Gorsuch would love to screw the administrative state and say, no, you don't tell me what I can do. I will tell you exactly what I
agree. I think Gorsuch is great on this issue.
He is. And I think he has.
I'll say left to stick it to the Biden administration. It doesn't really matter what side the Biden administration is on. If they're on the anti-immigrant side, they're going to get a program. They're going to be a program.
Jesse,
point somebody to make the argument.
Jesse, with Gorsuch, I can count to 4. You got to get me to 5, though.
Well, I think then you have to get Sotomayor. You have to get Sotomayor and Kagan to say, wait a minute, this is going to help people, when we have an administration who wants to harm everyone. And if the judges have to step in and preserve the rights of these poor people, then, that'd be my pitch to Judge Sotomayor and her, those in her cloth. But yeah, I also do think this is a great set of facts to make that argument about the equitable authority of a judge. Because it really,
we argued in equity.
If you do the math, you could actually have a program shut down. And then how do you get relief, right? Well, Meta would have had to order 30 or 20,000 visas in 1 month, right? It's, and for everyone else, it's just, I think, yeah, we'll see.
I don't know what Pierre is talking about. Greg, do you know what the Salazar bill is? I don't know what that is.
I wish I did.
Celine Centurk, I'm a DB20. What do you think of Ankara? Jess, Ankara hasn't been that good.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you have, this is one consulate that not has necessarily deprioritized, but is so overwhelmed and didn't, the minute they stopped having a plan in place, their ability to get to what is a relatively low number was probably, kind of thrown away. I don't know. 18,000 to me sounds like something that could happen. It's just, you're in a big traffic jam. That's the best way I can describe it.
Which is why we want to reserve the visas. I mean, this is just, unless magically the Department of State, they hit 55,000 on September 28th. If they do that, there is nothing to reserve.
Yeah.
Although they're supposed to be issuing these visas equitably by country. So we'll see. Frostman, greeting, gentlemen. How are you? When will they publish the panel and go? Probably in the middle of August. What do you think?
30 days before about that. That's when we'll learn.
So, EB wastage lawsuit. The judge denies class action issue. We'll be filing emergency writ of mandamus for every plaintiff. I doubt that we'll be able to file the emergency writ for every plaintiff in every state, but that would only be required if the judge sent every case to every state.
Right. We don't think that's
because we will be asking for an injunction for this case for everybody and the mandamus. So there you go. So no, we're not going to have to file because last year that happened because the judge sent all these cases out all over the United States.
Yeah, it was
right.
a venue.
That was very judge specific.
Yeah, I don't see that happening this year. Parts interpretation of IVs like NIVs, well, that essentially make pads current for all EB categories. I will tell you this, just now on Twitter, our friend Alex Naraste put up a couple of charts about the recovery of IV and NIV issuance based upon the most recent numbers from state. And he noted that they're still not back to where they were before pandemic and still not close to where they were the highs under Trump for each category. So there you go.
I think the argument here is maybe getting to, how you treat a visa issued for maybe an adjustment of status applicant. And does that necessarily, can you make that, can you treat it like they do in H-1Bs where it's before?
Guys, also, if you would stay on after the call for just a minute, I need to talk to you about
We'll all stay on. Okay. Jesse, if my brother will get DV22, I'll send you a bottle of Vine.
Well, it's not me. I mean, there's other people who do. I mean, again,
Jesse's definitely red. Definitely red.
I tell you though, I will say though, there's a lot of people here who still have doubts about whether diversity visa litigation was necessary this year, and I just need to remind everyone that it may not be successful for everyone, but when we stood here in February, it was such a different picture, and something kicked the government into gear, and it's likely to result in maybe 45,000 visas being issued,
which we did not anticipate. Right? We were talking about 20, 25 based upon the first quarter numbers.
If you had told me they were going to do, if you had told me they were going to do 45,000, I would have never. I would have been like,
dismissed that. We dismissed that. We said, no way that's going to happen.
Yeah. At the same time, I would have been shocked that they would do that and have some consulates not do any.
Yeah. Well, that is shocking. But it's because litigation works. You don't necessarily always get the result you want, but it forces change. Just like immigration deciding they're going to do as many EBs as possible.
Yeah,
if this litigation wasn't filed, they wouldn't be doing that.
I will raise this because I've been kind of contacted about, and maybe you guys have thoughts on this. There are a lot of people who are in administrative processing for DV, and of course, so number one, you have to get out of administrative processing and get the visa before September 30th, or you are out of luck. And what do you guys? I mean, I do think that delay litigation in that context, which probably will require an injunction, is one way that you should think about. I haven't done any individually. I think they're really time-intensive cases, but if you're sitting there and it's August or you need to understand that deadline is.
If you're August 15th and you've been sitting for several months in administrative processing, you need to sue.
Yeah.
You need to sue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no logical reason why it takes 3, 6, 8 months to do administrative processing for you. I mean, that it's not like some guy's literally working on it 24/7. They're not. It's just in a box. It's not just sitting in a box.
Yeah.
A big box with lots of other people's boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our anchor in Arkansas. Our anchor just gave 2 NLs and passed through me at 18,000 to high numbers.
Yeah. That happened today. Yeah, this morning I saw that. Yeah. And it's not right. And I'm telling you, the only thing I can tell you, and it's probably gonna not make a bit of difference, is that issue you're talking about is rampant. And I don't believe it's consistent with the regulation on how they consider people for scheduling. But there's a lot of evidence that they're not doing what they should be.
So their explanation, if I have it, is it's the first consideration is the number that you got in the selection, but the primary consideration is when you complete documentation. I don't think the statute or regs say that, personally. So, all right. So out of 140 total plaintiffs, how many so far from Georgia? Well, I don't have any idea, honestly. I don't have that in front of me. Let's see. Ram, with all respect, there was a complete discrimination EU region. Well, didn't a lot of countries do EU countries do a lot of DVs in like March and April? A lot of DVs done.
It's funny because, Aaron can probably share this, so every time a client of ours, so we had clients in 38 countries, every time a client got an interview notice, it meant that every other client hates me and that they're being discriminated against. And so it just reverses, so it's like EU now, like EU, if you look at the numbers are really kind of great relative to like Africa region and some consulates. And then of course we had our friends in Oceania. Sydney did nothing for 7 months and then took off.
Like that.
And so it's this type of, I don't like the word discrimination. I think there's disparity. And it really depends on where you are. I need more information. EU is not good enough for me. Like I need to know what post you're at.
Well, he's in Almaty. Apparently they don't give a shiz.
They don't. I mean, we have a couple from them and they're not the best actors. But that's
he asked, are we planning to contact the individual consulates?
So
our answer is no. We're not going to contact individual consulates.
Chuck, I count 7 plaintiffs in Georgia.
7.
Okay.
Oh, I was thinking Georgia in the United States, Georgia, or from the Republic of Georgia. That's what I was confused about.
I don't think we have any plaintiffs from the Republic of Georgia.
That's what I was thinking too.
They're not
So
really.
what we are doing is contacting government counsel and saying, you have this consulate where we've got X plaintiffs. They've done nothing. What's your explanation?
Yeah. So to be clear, because I get these emails a lot that say, can you contact either the Post or KCC or somebody on my behalf? And no, we can't. We're not entered as attorneys of record with the Department of State. We don't have authorization to do that. They wouldn't respond, even if we did. So our representation in this case is limited to communicating through the court and through government counsel. But we will communicate regarding your case specifically there.
He is one of our 14 clients, and we will be doing that.
Yes.
Cooper C., Cook, Siskin Hall, and the other attorney. I think your name is going to change, Jesse, to the other attorney.
I love being the other attorney. I can't tell you how much I enjoy being the other.
Great. Yeah, Build Back Better is dead. So
the one positive for this awful week on the Supreme Court is I have been, I'm a student of polls, and there's been a very significant shift in the generic ballot to Democrats in the last couple of days since the Supreme Court decision came out, and some people are more optimistic now that there's a pickup opportunity for 2 to 4 seats for Democrats in the Senate on Ohio and Pennsylvania and some of these states that are purplish. And that's really where we are. If we get to 53 or 54 Democrats in the Senate, then I think immigration reform has some significant life in it, because at that point there's no filibuster.
If the Dems can keep the House, which is
Well, even the House, though, right now it's a 50. It's the one question they asked in the I forget which poll it was this morning, but it was the question was, if a pro-choice Democrat is running against an anti or a restrictionist Republican on abortion, there's a 15-point margin right now, which is, even with gerrymandering and everything like that, that's got
crazy.
to get a lot of Republicans, because that would mean the Democrats would retain the House. If it was the vote were tomorrow, I would say the Democrats would be in pretty good shape.
That would be good. Our EB5 case, we've actually gotten a lot of movement on each of the 3 lawsuits that we filed for EB5. I don't have the numbers on our 485, so I know one of our clients just got approved yesterday on their 485.
What do you think, Chuck and Aaron and Jesse, about this decision that just came out that our co-counsel Matt was telling us about in the EB5 case from yesterday? It seems
that is a great that injunction is a great injunction by that federal court judge. Basically, and again, it was only the regional centers saying, "Look, you can't decertify." It appears to be inconsistent with the statute to decertify and make all regions reapply. I'm going to stop you from doing that. They're all good. Mm-hmm. So that to me is great news for all the individual people who have regional center cases on their EB5s, that they don't have to wait for immigration to go back and recertify 900 regional centers.
I think that's good for our plaintiffs.
Oh, I think it's great for our plaintiffs, because they can't use that as an excuse now not to adjudicate the cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Right. What do I think about Ethiopian DV winners? Personally, I think they're very nice people.
Except for that one.
but I don't think the consul is very good.
Yeah, my heart breaks. I have 10 clients, and I have one who is AF 2000, and she's a mother with like 2 little children, and it drives me absolutely insane. I can't. That's the only way I can say it. Like, it really, like, it's outrageous. Yeah, and and I talk to her all the time, and I think, again, she rightfully probably hates me, but I mean that like in a nice way, because I cannot get the wheel moving. Like, I just would love to be able to help this person, because their dreams rest. I mean, it really is like the dream. Like,
I'm gonna tell you've got a judge who's going to make a decision pretty quickly here, it seems like. So
yeah.
I think she's in excellent hands. Donna, many plaintiffs want to transfer their case on their embassy. Again, Aaron will be talking to government counsel, say, look, this embassy can't adjudicate. What's your plan? How you want to deal with this? We're down to 14 plaintiffs. This becomes an easily solvable problem for the government. This is a nothing burger to take care of.
Yeah.
Nothing burger. This is not 1,000 plaintiffs. Final thoughts on August 22 final action dates for EB2 and EB3. I don't always memorize every visa bulletin when it comes out because it changes so frequently as part of this. But I was looking at that today, and the final action dates for India here, December 14, Jan 12. I mean, they're ridiculous, and they're still not moving them forward. So are they saying at this point, with 3 months left in the fiscal year, that really 2 months after this, because, August, September, the only bulletins we don't have yet, they don't need to move the dates to get enough cases to use all the numbers? So they've got enough cases to use all the numbers? Is that what they're saying?
What are the numbers?
They won't disclose the number. That's what I mean.
That's what I mean.
Which is what we will be asking for. We will be telling the judge directly. They are not releasing the information to judge them properly.
This is the theme of our immigration world, immigration litigation right now, is like they say a lot, and then the critical detail, when you look deeper, it's not there. Maybe
we'll get lucky and get some quick discovery. That would be kind of nice.
Let's do it. Listen, they could just file their declaration and say, this is their litigation position. Often it's like, I told you so. And I don't think that we can afford to have that type of, we told you this is how we're doing it. So that means we're doing it that way. No,
trust me, we're from the government. We're here to help you. All right. Thank you, KC. Appreciate it. We do have a wonderful team. Bujabat plaintiffs from Russia, Warsaw to Vienna. I get my data view. I can't get my Kenyan visa. Oh my God.
Oh.
Well, one more thing. Please reach out to Aaron, and he'll put your specific name.
Yeah.
And is that Cyrus? I don't know what that name is, Greg. You're going to help me out here.
This is a good. This is
Syrian.
It's a really good example, though, of why can't I just transfer like that type of question? You need to ask yourself, like, you also have to be available to go to where you think you can go, because these types of issues happen all the time, especially not just in Europe or but Africa. Like they may not let you in, or you may get there and they say, well, you're not a resident. No, thank you. So it's not as simple as Department of State allows you to transfer. It's other, entry documents.
Well, I know what we've been telling people is if you're going to transfer, make sure it's a place you can go to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's a great website. You Google, where can Russians travel visa free? It comes right up. Okay. That's the countries you really want to focus on.
Can I just point out, do you know where a lot of people went, by the way? They went and they had their DV interview, Rio.
Yeah.
Russians.
Number went to Brazil.
Yeah. Brazil.
Reach out to me offline. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about what they're saying when they deny the visa to get there, whether there's any way to overcome it. So reach out to me offline. Aaron@immigrationissues.com.
I wish Psychological State had anything to do with these appeals. They do not, unfortunately. Let's see. Does DV 2021 recapture? Yeah, I think that's in the Meng Amendment to recapture the DVs from 2021 as well. So. Mm-hmm. Harish Bajaj, the government has not assigned counsel for the lawsuit. Is there any discussion behind the scenes? These are, while a government lawyer hasn't entered their appearance in the case, there is a government counsel assigned to the case. They didn't wait 60 days to assign somebody. And they've been served, which means the right people have gotten the actual lawsuit with the case numbers and the process. So are these organic approvals? I would suggest not. Because the people at the agency know on these cases that the mandamus is pending. So, last question on September 16th. We hope expired visa will be allowed in the United States. Well, first of all, again, reminder: there will be no decision on September 16th. There won't be a decision probably till past the end of the year. It might be 2023 before there's a decision issued. So these are folks, by the way, Jesse, who had a visa and couldn't get into the United States by September 30, 2020. They just couldn't physically get here. And their visas expired. And there was an argument that they should be resuscitated that Judge Maida never answered. So, all right. It's been great being with you guys. It's so good to see your handsome faces. Especially Jesse's. Jesse and Aaron.
I will be forever known as the other at this point. That sticks.
Change your name to other attorney down below. Other attorney.
I love it.
So we'll see you guys next Tuesday. I'm live tomorrow at 1. Greg, Aaron, when do you guys go live this week? Not this
hiatus.
We're on Thursday at noon Mountain Time. I just wanted to tell people who have emailed me in the last about 24 hours. Again, I've got it. I'm getting back to you. I know there's some people in the chat who have sent me the same questions, and I'll be getting back to you within about the next day.
Patience, young grasshopper. Now, Jesse, are you on with Britt Simon again this Sunday? What is the
I haven't. I've actually been. It's been a bit busy, so I've taken a hiatus, but I'll probably get back on. I wanted to. There's just so much going on, and being the other is not easy.
No, being the other. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
All right.